In our last video, we talked about author's choices. An author chooses how to introduce characters, how to describe the setting, what kind of words to use. Use positive words or negative words to describe an event or a person or the setting. We also talked about what good readers notice as they're reading literature. The first being contrasts and contradictions. Those things that stand out as, ooh, I wouldn't have expected this. I wouldn't have expected the character to behave that way, or to use that kind of language, or to say that, or to react in that way. Contrasts and contradictions. Good readers notice when there's a contrast contradiction, take note of it, and wonder, why'd the author put that in there? Because it must relate to the theme. Everything in the book is going to end up relating to the theme, the message that an author is trying to send to the reader. It's usually a message about life. Maybe it's a lesson about life. Maybe it's an observation about life. Short works, like a short story or a poem, is probably going to have one theme. Longer works, like a whole novel, there's going to be multiple themes in here. There are multiple subjects that Jeanette Walls is commenting on. And I bet you're already starting to pick up on what some of those subjects are. You might not fully know what her theme is yet. We haven't quite read enough yet. But I bet you're starting to pick up on some of those subjects. And the subjects that our author writes about, let me show you, here it is. We figure out what those subjects are by noticing those things that keep showing up again and again, right? So I'm adding a second layer onto your thinking as a reader. You need to think about contrasts and contradictions and notice those. I also want you looking for ideas that show up again and again. When you are reading and you notice a word, a phrase, an object, or an idea mentioned over and over, you should stop and ask yourself, why does this keep showing up again and again? The answer will lead you to the message or the theme the author is trying to send about life. Why does it keep showing up? Some of the ideas that we see showing up again and again so far are ideas like alcoholism, like parenting, homelessness, education. These things keep showing up again and again. And yes, Jeanette Walls is going to have something to say about these ideas. I want to take a look at two passages. Let's do just two different close readings, practicing this again and again. Look at the ideas that show up again and again. Join me. Let's start on page 42. Page 42. On page 42, this is quite a surprising scene, isn't it? You probably read this and maybe you even read it twice because you were like, whoa, is this really happening? It's quite a contrast, isn't it? You wouldn't expect Dad's behavior to be this way. Or maybe you have come to expect Dad to behave this way. Maybe this isn't a contrast to the Dad that we have gotten to know. Jeanette's mom is pregnant. They decide they have to move so they're closer to a hospital. And so they're out on the road. Dad made some extra money that day, and he's got a bottle with him. And this is a crazy ride, isn't it? Dad is drunk as he's driving along, and eventually Dad jerked the steering wheel. I'm on page 43. Dad jerked the steering wheel to one side and drove off the road into the desert after Mom, because Mom got out of the car. She was angry. Lori, Brian, and I braced one another with our arms, like we always did, when Dad went on some wild chase that we knew would get bumpy. I have to notice the word choice in this passage. Like we always did. This has happened. This has happened a lot. And Jeanette Walls wants to make this clear. This occurs a lot. Again and again, this drunkenness shows up. We have a description of Mom 2 paragraphs down. The paragraph right before that break on page 43. It was a moonless night, so we couldn't see Mom except when she ran into the beam of the headlights. She kept looking over her shoulder, her eyes wide, like a hunted animal's. Like a hunted animal. It's a simile, isn't it? Similes emphasize an idea. Jeanette Walls wants to emphasize here that Mom is scared. A hunted animal is scared. Fear. But also danger. Mom's in a dangerous position. A hunted animal is in a dangerous position, isn't it? Fear and danger. The simile comparing Mom to a hunted animal is emphasizing the fear and the danger that goes along with alcoholism. So we're beginning to figure out the theme, aren't we? Jeanette Walls has some things that she wants to say about alcoholism, and she seems to be saying it is really hard on the family. Fear and danger. Let's take a look at another close reading, page 55. So turn a few pages ahead, page 55. We get the idea of alcoholism showing up again here. However, it's the opposite end. This is when Dad is not drinking. He has a job as an electrician in a Barrett mine, and he's doing pretty well. However, he is still often in the bar. Join me about halfway down page 55, the paragraph that starts with, "The Owl Club had a bar where groups of men with sunburned necks huddled together over beers and cigarettes. They all knew Dad." Well, why'd they know Dad? Well, because he was there all the time. "And whenever he walked in, they insulted him in a loud, funny way that was meant to be friendly. 'This joint must be going to hell in a handbasket if they're letting in sorry-ass characters like you,' they shouted." So lots of joking, teasing. They know him well enough to pick on him and to joke. Again and again. Drunkenness. Turn the page, 56. With Dad working, the family is doing better. They have food. And they're making smart decisions, very practical decisions about spending the money on food. That first full paragraph, the end of it, she bought the basics: sacks of flour or cornmeal, powdered milk, onions, potatoes, 20-pound bags of rice, pinto beans, salt, sugar, yeast for making bread, cans of jack mackerel, canned ham, bologna, sliced peaches. Things are going much better for the family. They have food, and they're making smart choices. They're not just blowing all their money on things they don't need, but buying food that's very practical and inexpensive, food that will keep. We get an idea, another idea showing up again and again here is Mom's parenting style. Look in the next paragraph. Mom didn't like cooking much. Most of us moms don't like cooking much. I bet you're tired of cooking too, huh? But she says, "Why spend the afternoon making a meal that will be gone in an hour," she'd ask us, "when in the same amount of time I can do a painting that will last forever?" So once a week or so, she'd fix a big cast iron vat of something like fish or rice or usually beans. We'd all sort through the beans together, picking out the rocks. Then Mom would soak them overnight, boil them the next day with an old ham bone to give them flavor. And for that entire week, we'd have beans for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If the beans started going bad, we'd just put extra spice in them. So if they start rotting, just put some salt in there, cover the flavor. That's Mom's decision as a parent. Her children aren't old enough to cook their own dinner. Well, I suppose maybe they are. Jeanette was cooking at 3, huh? But that's her decision as a parent. You could say this is a contrast or contradiction. We wouldn't expect Mom to cook one meal for the entire week that they eat 3 times a day. And if it starts going bad, well, just add some salt. I bet it wasn't in the refrigerator. They didn't always have their electricity bill paid, so maybe there wasn't even a refrigerator. What do you think about Mom and Dad's parenting style? We heard previously about some of those adventures that the kids went on, the games that they invented, jumping off the roof of the depot, exploring in the desert. Sounds a little bit dangerous. Now the kids are eating week-old beans. If we look on page 59, that long paragraph on the middle of the page, Lori, Brian, and I, and even Maureen, could go pretty much anywhere and do just about anything we wanted. Mom believed that children shouldn't be burdened with a lot of rules and restrictions. Use your common sense, Mom said, but she felt it was good for kids to do what they wanted because they learned a lot from their mistakes. Good point. I bet you would like less rules in your world, wouldn't you? This is an idea showing up again and again, though. Parenting style. What is the responsibility of a parent? Should a parent have to cook meals for their kids every day and make sure that they're safe? Or is Mom right? A little risk is good for you. A little hardship is good for you. Go back to page 56, 57. One more idea that I see showing up again and again. On the bottom of page 56, we find out that Dad almost never went out drinking at night like he used to. He stayed at home with us. And the family seems pretty happy. They have food to eat because Dad's working. Drinking less, working, they have food. They're sitting around in the evenings together, reading, talking, writing letters to the dictionary, people arguing about definitions, which maybe that's not your idea of fun. But this family seems to be enjoying this. And it seems to be intelligent, educational work too. They're reading classics like Charles Dickens, William Faulkner, Henry Miller, Pearl Buck. A contrast, you wouldn't expect these almost homeless people to be reading such intelligent, such difficult literature. They're smart. Contrast. Wouldn't expect that. Kind of breaking through the stereotype, just because you're homeless, you must be stupid. Not so here. But we're getting some glimpses of goodness in this chapter, and it relates to Dad's drinking. When he's not drinking, things are good. A lot of ideas are showing up again and again. We see Dad's drinking showing up again and again. And we saw this earlier too. Remember then that scene where he came around the corner after leaving the kids in the car for hours while he was in the bar? Can you imagine being left in the car for hours while your dad's in the bar? And then they're driving and Jeanette falls out of the car because he's so drunk and Dad doesn't even notice it. So we see the drinking showing up again and again. And we see the not drinking showing up and how that impacts the family. We see ideas of parenting showing up again and again. What is the responsibility of a parent? We're also seeing this idea of family showing up, being together, valuing the family, even though this family is not perfect. Jeanette Walls could decide to hell with you. You're not good people. But who can make that decision about their family? Family is important, and they are good people. And Jeanette values her family. One more thing I want us to remember. Our narrator right now, the person telling our story, is a child. Jeanette Walls is a child. And so we're getting the account of this family's life through a child's perspective. As we continue reading, watch for how that perspective changes. What does Jeanette realize and learn as she grows up? What does she struggle with as she's able to think more deeply about what's going on in her world and she learns more about the world and what it could look like and what her world does look like? What does she struggle with? How does she handle those struggles? Her child narrator. Okay, so as we keep reading, you're going to focus on a few things. Keep looking for contrasts and contradictions. Keep looking for ideas that show up again and again. And you know some of those ideas are going to be alcoholism, parenting, the family. Excuse me. Also, be paying attention to Jeanette Walls and how her perspective changes as she grows up.